Hey guys, hope you're doing all right today. Turn this off. A little chilly this morning in the office, so I had the little heater going. But hope you guys are doing all right. So sorry about being late on the video and the email this week. It's been a busy week thus far, and it just slipped my mind yesterday. But we are on Unit 33, Session 2. So Unit 33, Session 2. Still in the book of Acts. A very lengthy book of the Bible, but also just so many cool stories and so many great lessons for us as believers. So it's Acts chapter 17, verses 16 through 34. And this is where Paul is in Athens. And this is one of my favorite stories about Paul, just because I think it just shows such a great understanding of how to do evangelism with people that are of a different culture than you are. And so I love this story. So again, Acts 17, we've got Paul in Athens, verses 16 through 34. Now, I'm not really going to give a lot of points for this because I feel like there's a lot of background stuff that we have to understand to fully unpack this story. Paul's standing in Athens, which Athens was, if you know your history, it's a pretty major city in Greece, and this is kind of like, this would be like a big city today. Like this is a New York or a Chicago or Los Angeles of that time. Lots of people from all different walks of life were there, and so you had a lot of different religions, a lot of syncretism, which we talked about a couple weeks ago, of like this combining of multiple religions. You had a lot of atheism. You had and then a lot of like cultured Greek gods, very pluralist kind of mentality of there's many gods and we've got all these statues. But Paul is addressing and mentions several groups of people. He first talks to the Jews in the synagogue and reasons with them. But then also he talks to some Epicurean and Stoic philosophers. Now, if you look at that, you may have no idea who those are, but I think it's important we know what they believe. So the Epicureans had been around for probably 400 years. Epicurus lived in 300 BC. And basically, they did not believe in an afterlife. And so with that, there's no fear of judgment at the end of your life. And they believed this because they were materialists. They believed that everything's just matter. So there's really no soul. There's really nothing that we can do after this life. So therefore, live it up while you're here, and you don't have to worry about consequences after you die. The Stoics believed basically that freedom was found through this moral and intellectual perfection, where you basically ascended to this place where emotions did not exist in your life. Emotions lead to pain. And so if you ever hear the word stoic or stoic calm, is kind of a good grasp of what we talk about today. So if someone's stoic, they're just kind of still. They're not bothered. They're not really shaken by anything, which may look strong, but we all know that emotions are very real and we can learn a lot from emotions. And so they were like really boring people. So, but anyways, they're talking and they're like, hey, we want to hear more about this gospel that you're talking about, preaching about Jesus resurrecting from the dead and all this stuff. And so there's a couple things that I think Paul does here. One, Paul understood their theology. Now, we're not going to understand every single worldview, every single theology of every single person. That's just you can't do that. It's endless, right? People make up their own stuff nowadays. They certainly did in this context too. But Paul understood that he knows a few things. One, they believe in a lot of different gods, right? Many of them don't believe in an afterlife. Many of them think that they can save themselves through just this moral and intellectual ascent, right? But he saw a monument or a statue to this unknown God. So he understands that there's something that they cannot grasp, right? So it's important that Paul attacks them in that way, or not attacks, that's probably the wrong word, but focuses on that point. Because what Paul does, secondly, is he uses their ignorance to allow the gospel to fill that void that's in their life. And this is present in everybody's life, right? Like without Jesus, you inevitably feel some kind of void that you're constantly trying to fill throughout your entire life. And so Paul is using their own ignorance of saying, hey, this is to the unknown God, because surely there's one that we missed, right? So we want to make sure we honor that God that we missed. Well, that God that they missed is the actual one and true God that can save them and and can give them that, fill that void that they ultimately are feeling. So just really like good stuff here from Paul. A lot of things for us to learn here. I'm barely even scratching the surface, and I haven't even gone into what Paul ended up preaching in his message. And that's a very important thing to point out too. But yeah, I just want to help you give some background on like who the Epicureans were, who the Stoics were, and then like understand that as we're teaching students how to interact with people that don't believe what we believe, it's important to kind of know their background, and it's important to be able to find something that you can hold on to, and you can get your foot in the door with evangelism with people that don't agree with you, right? And that's what Paul does, and it says ultimately a few of them followed him, and a lot of them wanted to hear more. So hope that's helpful for you guys as you approach this Sunday's lesson. Thank you guys, and we'll see you Sunday.